Let's get something straight. When someone ignores you, it's more than just silence on their end, it's a test. A test of your emotions, your self-respect, and most importantly, your power. Right now, you may feel like you're at a breaking point, torn between reacting and holding back. You're frustrated, confused, maybe even desperate for answers. You've sent that extra text, posted something cryptic, or hoped they'd see your worth through your actions. But let me ask you this, has it ever worked? The truth is, every time you react, every time you let their behavior dictate your response, you lose. They pull further away and you crumble. But what if I told you that the most powerful response is no response at all? That silence isn't a form of surrender, but the ultimate act of power. Imagine flipping the script. Imagine confusing them with your silence while you reclaim every ounce of energy you've been wasting on someone who hasn't earned it. This isn't about petty games or shallow tactics. This is about transformation, about building a life so full of strength, dignity, and purpose that their absence becomes irrelevant. If you're ready to stop chasing, stop reacting, and finally step into your power, this is where it begins. In this journey, we'll uncover the secrets that will change not just how they see you, but how you see yourself. We'll explore the power of silence, how to rebuild the empty space they left behind, and how to rewrite the story they tried to control. By the end, you won't just confuse them, you'll transform yourself into someone they'll never forget. The time to act is now. No more begging, no more chasing. It's time to rise. Are you ready? 1. The power of silence. Stop reacting. Let's begin with the one truth no one wants to admit. Your reaction is their victory. Every time you respond, whether it's a desperate text, a tearful call, or a passive-aggressive social media post, you're handing them control. They may have ignored you, pulled away, or ghosted you, but their silence has provoked you, hasn't it? And when you react, you validate their power over you. Why is that? Because when someone knows they can control your emotions, they feel superior. It becomes a game, one where they hold the strings, and you dance to their tune. But I need you to understand something important. You are not a puppet. You don't exist to be manipulated or tossed aside when it's convenient for someone else. When you react to their games, you're giving them what they want, proof that they still matter to you, proof that you still care. Stop for a moment and ask yourself, why are you so afraid of silence? Silence feels uncomfortable because it forces you to sit with your emotions instead of projecting them outward. It feels like surrender because you've been taught to believe that chasing after someone will prove your worth. But that's a lie. Reacting doesn't bring someone closer, it pushes them further away. They see you as desperate, needy, and dependent on their validation. And let me be clear, no one respects someone who doesn't respect themselves. So what happens when you decide to stop reacting? What happens when you embrace silence instead of fighting against it? First, the dynamic shifts. You're no longer handing them the keys to your emotions. You're taking back control, quietly, confidently. They'll expect you to chase, to beg, to crumble. But when you don't, something incredible happens. They become confused. They start wondering why you stopped. Why did you disappear? Are you okay without them? Suddenly, the power they thought they had begins to slip away. Here's the truth about silence. It isn't about them at all. It's about you. Stoicism teaches us that our power lies not in controlling others, but in controlling ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the essence of silence. It's the realization that no one can provoke you unless you let them. No one can hurt you unless you hand them that power. Think about it. How much time and energy have you wasted reacting to someone who didn't care enough to stay? How many days, weeks, or even months have you spent trying to make someone see your worth? What if, instead of pouring all that energy into them, you decided to pour it into yourself? Imagine this. They ignore you, and instead of texting, you put your phone down and go for a run. They ghost you, and instead of spiraling, you pick up a book and lose yourself in a story. They pull away, and instead of chasing, you invest in your passions, your goals, and your peace. What do you think would happen? At first, they may not even notice. They may think you're playing hard to get, waiting for you to come back. But when you stay silent, when you hold your ground, they'll begin to feel it. Your absence will speak louder than any words ever could. And here's the beautiful part. By the time they notice, you won't care. You'll be too busy building a life that doesn't revolve around them. This is where stoicism comes into play again. It's not about ignoring your emotions, it's about mastering them. It's about choosing a response that serves your highest good. And in this case, silence is your answer. But let me warn you, silence isn't easy. It requires strength. It requires patience. It requires the ability to sit with discomfort and resist the urge to act. You'll have moments of doubt, moments where you want to pick up the phone and send that text. Don't. Remember this. Every time you react, you lose. Every time you stay silent, you win. So ask yourself, are you ready to reclaim your power? Are you ready to let silence be your answer? The next time they ignore you, don't react. Don't explain. Don't chase. Let your silence confuse them. Let it show them, and yourself, that you are stronger than they ever imagined. This is your turning point. This is where you take back control. And trust me, once you embrace the power of silence, there's no going back. You'll look back on this moment and realize it was the beginning of something extraordinary. If this resonates with you, write "I reclaim my power" in the comments. Declare it to yourself and the world. Your journey starts now, and it begins with silence. 2. Why reacting gives them control. Have you ever noticed how your emotions spiral the moment you hit send on that text? That one last message you tell yourself will make them understand, make them care, or make them come back. But instead, what happens? The silence on their end grows louder. You're left staring at your phone, hoping, waiting, and sinking deeper into frustration. So let me ask you, who's in control here? The harsh truth is this: when you react, you're giving them all the power. Whether they ignored you to test your patience, play a game, or simply because they're indifferent, your reaction feeds their dominance. They've done nothing, yet you've handed them the keys to your emotions. Suddenly they dictate your happiness, your peace, and your self-worth. But why? Why are you so willing to let someone else decide how you feel? Why are you chasing validation from someone who has shown you with their silence that they don't deserve it? Stop for a moment and let that sink in. Every time you react, whether it's a text, a call, or a post, you're confirming that they still matter more to you than you matter to yourself. That's a painful pill to swallow, isn't it? And here's the kicker. They know it. Maybe not consciously, but they feel it. They feel the power they hold over you. And that power allows them to keep you right where they want you, on edge, waiting, hoping. Now think about this. When you let someone control your emotions, you lose control of your life. You allow their actions or inaction to determine your happiness. But here's the truth. Their behavior is not your responsibility. As Stoicism teaches us, you cannot control what others do. You can only control how you respond. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So let me ask you, what's stopping you from taking back control of your mind? What if, instead of reacting to their indifference, you chose silence? What if, instead of spiraling, you pulled your focus inward and realized you never needed their validation to begin with? Picture this. They ignore your message. Instead of checking your phone every 2 minutes, you take a step back. You decide not to react. You decide not to care. At first, they won't notice because they expect you to chase. But then it happens. Your silence disrupts their control. They begin to wonder, why isn't she responding? Is he okay without me? Suddenly, the power dynamic shifts. The attention they once took for granted is gone. And in that moment, they realize they've lost something irreplaceable, your energy. But let me make one thing clear. Your silence is not about them. It's not a tool to manipulate or confuse them. It's a statement to yourself that says, "I choose me." It's the moment you decide to stop begging for scraps of attention and start building the life you deserve. You're not ignoring them to punish them. You're removing your energy from a place where it's not valued. You're choosing peace over chaos, strength over weakness, self-respect over desperation. That's stoicism in action. mastering your response, even in the face of rejection. Will it be easy? No. You'll feel the urge to react, to explain, to beg for clarity. But that urge is a test. And the moment you resist it, you'll realize the power you hold within you. The power to walk away. The power to stay silent. The power to value yourself more than someone who can't even bother to respond. So let me challenge you. The next time they ignore you, what will you do? Will you react, feeding their control and proving they still matter? Or will you hold your ground, stay silent, and reclaim your power? If you're ready to stop reacting and take control of your life, I want you to take action right now. Like this video and comment number 1 if this message resonates with you. Let me know that you're ready to stop reacting and start rising. And don't forget, if you're finding strength and clarity in this message, hit the subscribe button so you never miss content that challenges you to be stronger, calmer, and untouchable. This is just the beginning of your transformation, and together we'll keep rising. Take back your power. Take back your mind. They may have ignored you, but they will never control you again. 3. Redesign the room they left empty. When someone leaves your life, whether they ghost you, ignore you, or pull away, it doesn't just feel like a rejection, it feels like destruction. Suddenly, your world feels empty. The room they used to occupy in your mind, your heart, and your life is left hollow, filled with silence and echoes of what once was. And here's what happens. You stand there, staring at the emptiness, mourning what's lost. You replay conversations, relive moments, and convince yourself that if you'd done something differently, they'd still be there. But let me ask you, how long will you stand in that empty room, frozen in regret? How long will you cling to the scraps of a relationship that's no longer yours? Because here's the truth. What they left behind isn't your burden. It's your opportunity. That empty space isn't a tomb for what's lost. It's a blank canvas for what's coming. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine walking into a room that's been torn apart. The furniture is broken, the windows are shattered, and the walls are covered in dust. It's a mess, isn't it? But tell me this, would you sit there staring at the wreckage, refusing to move? Would you spend days, weeks, even months mourning the mess? Or would you roll up your sleeves, clear out the debris, and start rebuilding? Life is no different. Their absence feels like destruction because you've attached so much of yourself to them. You made them the foundation of your happiness. You allowed them to become the centerpiece of your world. So when they left, it felt like the walls crumbled. But here's the thing. You're not the caretaker of their leftovers. You're the architect of your life. That room belongs to you and you decide what goes into it. So the question isn't, why did they leave? The question is, what will I build in their place? The first step in redesigning that empty room is clearing out the clutter. And no, I'm not just talking about deleting their pictures or throwing away their things. I'm talking about the emotional debris, the anger, the sadness, the resentment. These emotions are like broken glass on the floor. If you don't clear them out, you'll keep tripping over them every time you try to move forward. Take a moment and ask yourself, what are you holding on to that's keeping you stuck? Is it the idea that you weren't good enough? Is it the hope that they'll come back? Is it the anger that they didn't see your worth? Whatever it is, it's time to let it go. Write it down. Scream it out. Cry if you need to, but don't let those emotions sit there collecting dust in your heart. As Seneca said, no man is free who is not master of himself. To master yourself, you must confront what no longer serves you and release it. Once the room is clear, the real work begins. You start rebuilding, not for them, but for you. This is your space now. Fill it with the things that make you come alive. Fill it with purpose, passion, and peace. What does that look like for you? Maybe it's picking up a forgotten hobby, learning a new skill, or setting a new goal. Maybe it's something as simple as waking up earlier, journaling, or exercising. The point is to focus on yourself, to pour your energy into growth instead of grief. Because here's the secret. When you start redesigning your life, you stop feeling the void they left behind. That emptiness is no longer a reminder of their absence. It becomes a testament to your transformation. You begin to realize that their exit was not your loss, it was your liberation. Think about this. Every great story has a moment of destruction, a moment when the hero loses everything. But what makes them a hero is what happens next. They don't sit in the ruins defeated. They rebuild, stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. And so will you. Here's where Stoicism comes into play again. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Their absence feels like an obstacle, doesn't it? But what if I told you it's the very thing that will propel you forward? The emptiness they left behind isn't a curse, it's a gift. It's a chance to rebuild your life in a way that's so strong, so full, that no one can ever shake it again. So ask yourself, what will you put into this room? Will you let it sit empty, haunted by their memory? Or will you fill it with joy, purpose, and growth? Will you let their absence break you? Or will you use it as the foundation for your greatest chapter? This is where the magic happens, when you stop mourning the mess they left and start creating something beautiful in its place. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a declaration that you refuse to be defined by their departure. You refuse to let their absence control your story. Because here's the truth. You don't need them to feel whole. You don't need their presence to feel worthy. You are already enough, just as you are. And when you start filling that empty room with the things that bring you joy and fulfillment, you'll realize something profound. You never needed them at all. By the time you're done rebuilding, you won't even remember the person who left. Their memory will be nothing more than a footnote in the story of your rise. You'll look around and see a life that's beautiful, vibrant, and undeniably yours. This isn't about proving anything to them. It's not about making them regret their decision. It's about you reclaiming your space, your energy, and your power. So let me ask you one more time. What will you build in the space they left behind? The answer is yours to decide. 4. Shift the spotlight back to you. For too long, you've given them the spotlight. You've shined a light so bright on their actions, their decisions, and their life that you've forgotten who the star of this story is. Let me ask you something. Why are they the focus? Why are you standing in the shadows while they take center stage? Think about it. You're scrolling through their social media, analyzing every post, every smile, every move. You're replaying conversations in your head, obsessing over what you said or didn't say. You're living in the past, in their timeline, while your own life sits neglected and forgotten. And for what? Does watching them move on, smiling in photos, make you feel better? Does it bring them back? Or does it just keep you stuck, angry, sad, and unable to move forward? Here's the truth. The spotlight isn't fixed. You're the one holding it. And it's time to turn it back on yourself. You see, when you make someone else the focus of your life, you give away your power. Their actions, their indifference, their happiness, or the illusion of it, dictate how you feel. They post a picture, and you spiral. They ignore your message, and you break. But why should someone who doesn't value you have so much control over your emotions? Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." This is the heart of the matter. You've forgotten who you are because you've been so focused on them. Let me tell you something. You are not a side character in someone else's story. You are the star of your own life. It's time to reclaim the stage. Imagine this. The spotlight shifts. Instead of following their every move, it now shines on you, your goals, your growth, your happiness. You start focusing on your life again, and suddenly their actions lose their power over you. You're no longer checking their updates, no longer wondering why they pulled away, no longer begging for answers. You're too busy building something extraordinary. So what does this look like? It starts small. Maybe you wake up tomorrow and decide to focus on yourself for once. You pick up that book you've been meaning to read. You go for that run you've been putting off. You start a new hobby, sign up for that class, or set a new goal. You see, turning the spotlight back on yourself isn't about proving anything to them. It's not about making them notice your growth or regret their choices. It's about recognizing that you deserve your attention. You deserve your energy. And you deserve to live a life that feels full and fulfilling, even without them in it. Here's a secret. When you stop focusing on them, you'll start to see yourself more clearly. You'll see the strength you've been ignoring. You'll recognize your potential, your worth, and your ability to thrive on your own. The things that felt so important yesterday, their texts, their absence, their approval, will start to fade into the background. And something incredible will happen. When you stop chasing them, when you stop shining the light on their life, they'll begin to wonder what changed. They'll notice the silence, the shift, the absence of your energy. They'll realize that the attention they took for granted is gone. But by then you won't care, because you'll be too focused on yourself, on your goals, your happiness, your peace. They'll be chasing shadows while you're moving forward. So let me ask you, what are you waiting for? Why are you still shining the light on them when it belongs on you? The moment you decide to shift the spotlight is the moment everything changes. You stop reacting. You stop hurting. You start living again fully, unapologetically, and powerfully. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to take the focus back and shine the light where it belongs, then take action right now. Like this video and comment number 1 below. Let me know you're ready to reclaim the spotlight, to step back into your power, and to make your life your own again. And don't forget, if you're finding this message helpful, subscribe to the channel so you never miss the content that pushes you to grow, to rise, and to thrive. This is your journey, and we're in it together. Now tell me, are you ready to stop watching their life and start living your own? The spotlight is yours, take it back. 5. Rewrite the ending. Imagine you're holding a book, a story where every chapter up until now has been written by someone else. They decided the plot. They dictated your role. And worst of all, they controlled how you felt. Their actions, ignoring you, pulling away, rejecting you, became the story you believed to be true. But here's what you may not realize. The pen has always been in your hand. So why are you still reading their version of your life as if it's the only one that exists? Why are you letting someone else decide how your story ends? Let me remind you of something powerful. Their rejection isn't the final chapter, it's just a pause. Think about it. Up until now, you've let their choices define you. You've allowed their absence to feel like a sentence, a period at the end of your worth. But in reality, what they did or didn't do is not about you. It's about them. So let me ask you, are you ready to take back the pen? Are you ready to rewrite the ending? Here's the truth you need to hear. You are not a victim in their story. You are the hero in your own. And what do heroes do when they're knocked down, rejected, or overlooked? They rise. They refuse to let the story stop where someone else tried to leave them. Your pain, your rejection, and even the silence they gave you, it's not where your story ends. It's where it begins. Now you might be thinking, but how do I move forward when the hurt still feels so heavy? When their silence still echoes in my mind? The answer lies in perspective. Instead of seeing this rejection as an ending, see it as the catalyst for your transformation. This moment, the one that feels unbearable, is your opportunity to create a new narrative. You can't change what they did. You can't force someone to see your worth, but you can decide how you respond. Stoicism teaches us that we are not defined by what happens to us, but by how we react to it. Marcus Aurelius said it best. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. What does that mean for you? It means their rejection isn't an obstacle, it's an opportunity. The silence they gave you isn't a dead end, it's a doorway to something greater. But here's the catch. Rewriting the ending takes courage. It takes the willingness to face your pain and say, "This will not define me." It takes the strength to pick yourself up when all you want to do is stay down. So where do you start? You start by accepting the reality of what happened. They ignored you. They rejected you. They walked away. Fine. Let it be. You don't need to sugarcoat it, and you don't need to pretend it didn't hurt. Acknowledge it. Feel it. But don't stay there. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the moment you decide to stop wishing for a different past and start creating a better future. Next, you shift your focus forward. Stop replaying the old chapters. Stop wondering what if or why me. Those thoughts keep you tethered to a story that no longer serves you. Instead, start visualizing the version of yourself you want to become. What does that version of you look like? How does that person live, think, and thrive? Close your eyes and picture it. That version of you isn't chasing after someone who walked away. That version of you isn't defined by someone else's rejection. That version of you is strong, confident, and radiant, not because they saw your worth, but because you saw it for yourself. Every small step you take toward that version of yourself is a line in your rewritten story. Every time you choose silence over reaction, growth over stagnation, and peace over chaos, you're proving to yourself that you are in control. You are not powerless. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived unimaginable suffering, once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." You may not be able to change the fact that they ignored you, but you can change what happens next. What happens next is up to you. Here's where it gets interesting. When you start rewriting your story, something profound happens. You stop focusing on them. You stop caring about their silence, their absence, or their indifference. The person who once seemed so important becomes nothing more than a footnote in your journey. And you realize something extraordinary. Their rejection was a gift. Because without it, you wouldn't have been forced to grow. Without it, you wouldn't have discovered your strength. Without it, you wouldn't have picked up the pen and started writing a story worth living. This isn't about proving them wrong. This isn't about waiting for them to regret what they did. Their opinion is no longer relevant. This is about proving something to yourself. You are so much more than the person they walked away from. You are not broken. You are becoming. So let me ask you one final question. If you were to write the ending of your story right now, what would it look like? Would you let their silence define you? Or would you choose to rise stronger, wiser, and unstoppable? Because the choice is yours. The pen is in your hands. Don't let someone else write your story. Or don't let someone else's absence be the end of your worth. This is your life. This is your moment to rise. Take it. 6. Become the ghost they'll never forget. Let's talk about something powerful. Becoming the ghost they'll never forget. I'm not talking about bitterness, revenge, or petty games. I'm talking about transforming so profoundly that your absence leaves an undeniable mark on their mind. Here's the reality: when you chase someone, beg for their attention, or try to prove your worth, you make yourself small. You become predictable, someone they can take for granted, and the more you give, the less they value what you offer. But what happens when you stop? What happens when you disappear, not out of spite, but out of self-respect? What happens when you walk away quietly, with no explanations, no breadcrumbs, and no drama? Let me tell you, you become unforgettable. Think of a candle extinguished in a dark room. The flame is gone, but its light lingers in the memory. That's what happens when you embrace silence and focus on your growth. You stop being available. You stop being predictable. And your absence starts to haunt them, not because you're trying to make it happen, but because you've shifted the energy entirely back to yourself. Let's get this straight: you don't disappear to make them regret losing you. That's not the goal. You disappear to heal, to grow, and to reclaim yourself. You're not punishing them with silence, you're freeing yourself from the need for their validation. That's the real power. But here's where it gets interesting. When you stop chasing and start thriving, they will notice. They'll scroll through their phone, expecting to see a message from you. There will be nothing. They'll check your social media, expecting a cryptic post or a desperate update. Again, nothing. And that nothing will speak volumes. Why? Because humans are wired to crave what they can no longer have. They're drawn to mystery, to absence, to silence. When you pull back, when you stop giving them access to you, they're forced to wonder. Why did you stop? Where did you go? And here's the beautiful part. While they're busy noticing your absence, you'll be too busy transforming. Imagine this. They're scrolling, wondering why they haven't heard from you. And meanwhile, you're out living your life, reading, learning, growing, thriving. The version of you they knew no longer exists. The person who begged, who chased, who broke down, that's not you anymore. You've become untouchable. Stoicism teaches us this. Our true power lies in our ability to master ourselves. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." How much time have you wasted trying to make them see your worth? How much energy have you poured into someone who didn't value it? Now imagine what would happen if you redirected that energy into yourself. Imagine the version of you that would emerge stronger, calmer, and more radiant than ever before. That's what it means to become the ghost they'll never forget. You stop playing the game. You stop reacting to their absence. Instead, you build a life so beautiful, so full, that they can't help but feel the weight of your disappearance. But let me remind you, this isn't about them. It's not about waiting for their regret. It's about you. It's about finally realizing that you don't need them to validate you, complete you, or save you. You are enough on your own. So how do you become the ghost they'll never forget? You disappear with dignity. No arguments. No explanations. No parting shots. You simply walk away. And while you're gone, you work. You grow. You heal. You create a version of yourself that doesn't just survive their absence, it thrives in it. This is not a trick. It's not a strategy to win them back. It's a statement. A statement that says, I don't need you to see my worth because I see it for myself. And trust me, when you transform in silence, they will notice. They might not reach out. They might not say anything, but they'll feel it. Your absence will linger like a shadow they can't escape, a reminder of what they let slip away. But here's the twist. By the time they realize it, you won't care. You'll be too far ahead, too invested in your growth, too in love with the life you've built for yourself. So I ask you, are you ready to let go of the version of you they took for granted? Are you ready to stop reacting, stop begging, and start transforming? Because once you do, they'll never forget you. Not because you tried to make them remember, but because you showed them, through silence, through growth, through your unwavering dignity, that they could never take you for granted again. And if this resonates with you, take action right now. Like this video and comment #1 below to let me know that you're ready to disappear from their world and build your own. And don't forget, if this message speaks to you, if it challenges you to rise higher, hit that subscribe button so you never miss content that pushes you to grow, to heal, and to become untouchable. This is your moment. Step back, rise up, and let your absence speak louder than any words ever could. 7. Let them chase shadows. Here's the ultimate truth. When you've done the work, when you've embraced silence, shifted the spotlight back to yourself, and transformed beyond recognition, they will notice. They always do. But by then, it will be too late. They'll be left chasing something they can never catch, the shadow of who you used to be. Let me ask you something. How often do you look back? How often do you find yourself wondering, what if? Or maybe they'll change if I just try one more time. It's tempting, isn't it? To hope that they'll finally see your worth, that they'll wake up one day and realize what they lost. But here's what you need to understand. Looking back keeps you chained to a version of yourself that no longer exists. The one who begged, the one who waited, the one who broke. You're not that person anymore. When you embrace your growth, when you focus on your healing, you rise into a version of yourself they can't even recognize. And when they finally turn around to look for you, all they'll find is a shadow, a memory of someone they can no longer reach. This is where the power truly shifts. Not because you've tried to make them regret their choices, not because you've played games to manipulate their attention, but because you've evolved beyond their grasp. Epictetus once said, if someone is able to provoke you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. For so long, they provoked you with their silence, their absence, their indifference. And you responded. You chased. You handed them your peace. But no more. Now you've stepped out of their reach. You've broken free from the need for their approval. And that's what haunts them. Think of it this way. They took you for granted because they thought they could. They believed you would always be there, always waiting, always reacting. So they ignored you. They pulled away. They tested how far they could go. But when you chose silence, you disrupted their expectations. They expected chaos, but you gave them calm. They expected desperation, but you gave them dignity. They expected you to stay stuck in the past, but you moved forward, quietly and confidently. And now, they're chasing shadows. They'll search for the old you, the one who needed their validation to feel worthy. They'll look for signs of you, your messages, your posts, your energy, but you're gone. They'll wonder why they haven't heard from you, why you haven't reached out, why you seem so unbothered. And in their confusion, they'll realize what they lost. But here's the part no one tells you. Their realization doesn't matter, because the version of you they want to find no longer exists. That person has been replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and untouchable. Let me make something clear. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about hoping they'll chase you back. If you're still holding on to that hope, then you haven't truly let go. True power lies in moving forward so completely that their regret becomes irrelevant. They might chase you, but they'll never catch you. Why? Because you're no longer in the same place they left you. You've grown. You've healed. You've poured your energy into building a life that's so full, so radiant, that their absence is no longer a void, it's a blessing. And here's the irony. The more you focus on yourself, the less you care about what they think. The less you look back, the faster you move forward. While they're stuck chasing the shadow of someone they no longer understand, you're walking boldly into the light of your own future. Let me ask you this. Who wins in the end? The one who's still chasing, or the one who chose to rise? The truth is, they'll never find closure. They'll never get the answers they think they want. They'll never catch the version of you they once knew. Because that version is gone, and you've built something stronger in its place. And that's the beauty of letting them chase shadows. You're not punishing them, you're freeing yourself. You're proving, not to them but to yourself, that you never needed their approval. You never needed their validation. What you needed was the strength to see your own worth. Marcus Aurelius said you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Life is too short to waste time looking back. Life is too precious to spend chasing people who have already shown you where they stand. So stop wondering if they'll come back. Stop hoping they'll regret their choices. Stop looking over your shoulder at a past that no longer serves you. Instead, keep walking. Keep growing. Keep shining so brightly that they can't help but notice. But by the time they do, you'll be long gone. Let them chase the shadows of who you used to be while you step into the light of the person you're becoming. Because the real victory isn't in their regret. It's in your growth. It's in your freedom. It's in your unwavering decision to choose yourself, no matter who didn't. So ask yourself this. Are you ready to stop looking back? Are you ready to let them chase shadows while you walk toward the life you deserve? The choice is yours. This is it, the moment where you decide who you're going to be. Are you going to keep reacting, keep chasing, and keep shrinking yourself for someone who ignored you? Or are you going to rise, to reclaim your power, and to step into the life you deserve? You've learned the truth. Your silence isn't weakness, it's power. Your growth isn't about proving anything to them, it's about proving everything to yourself. When you stop reacting, when you stop begging, and when you stop looking back, something extraordinary happens. You begin to thrive. They lose access to you. They lose the energy they once took for granted. They lose the version of you who gave them everything while asking for nothing in return. And you gain everything. You gain self-respect. You gain clarity. You gain a life filled with purpose, passion, and peace, a life that doesn't revolve around their approval. You become untouchable, unstoppable, and unforgettable. But remember this, the victory isn't in their regret. It's not in waiting for them to miss you. The real victory is in the person you're becoming. The person who chooses silence over chaos, peace over desperation, and growth over stagnation. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So let me ask you, what are you waiting for? Their validation? Their apology? Their regret? Stop. Your life is happening right now and you hold the pen. The story is yours to write, and it's time to create an ending so powerful, so beautiful, that you look back and thank them for walking away. Because their absence gave you space to become the version of yourself they could never imagine. You don't need them. You never did. From this moment on, let your silence speak louder than any words. Let your growth be your greatest response. and let your light shine so brightly that their shadow fades into irrelevance. This is your moment. This is your rise. Now, if this message has spoken to you, take a second to reflect. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's standing in the shadows of rejection and deserves to rise just like you. If you're ready to reclaim your power, to rewrite your story, and to let silence be your loudest victory, subscribe to this channel. There's so much more ahead. Content that will push you, challenge you, and guide you as you step into the most powerful version of yourself. And as we close, remember this: you are not broken, you are becoming. Your rise starts now. Thank you for watching. Keep rising, keep thriving, and never forget, the power was always yours.